Welcome to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz as we get you ready for the week ahead in fantasy football. Plenty to get to on today's show. Quarterbacks, of course, changes right now, and one quarterback they will be sticking with in Arizona. We will get to that. A change in Houston, the trade deadline, and of course, the waiver wire, a big part of our fantasy week. George, great to be back with you here again as we kind of charge through here for another week of big fantasy football implications. And, last week we did get a ton of points from a few different teams. The beat rolls on, so to speak, for some. And for others playing fantasy football, I mean, look, a lot of people are definitely headed toward the playoffs. There are some like me that are now not officially out of it, but up against it. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's you sort of know where you are now. Listen, if you're 8-1, 9-0, whatever it might be, now you start to gear up for the playoffs. Like get your fantasy schedules, right? See who you're going to play there, who you should grab there, who you should be looking for a trade to get some depth going there. And if you're struggling in some leagues, well, like I said, maybe it's time to look forward to fantasy baseball, basketball. You can always join late there, whatever it might be. But as I always like to say, even if you're out of it, set your lineups, okay? Set your lineups. Keep the integrity of the league. You never know; you might upset somebody, and but don't just ignore your team and leave guys on bye when you have guys on your roster who could play in their spot here. It's the only thing I think most of us ask here. Just set your lineup. You don't need to make acquisitions. And maybe you shouldn't even make acquisitions if you don't play in some kind of keeper league. It's just a redraft league. But don't just ignore your team.
Yeah, I agree. And George was going to join my fantasy basketball league, but then when he asked, is Larry Bird still the first pick overall, I knew it probably would not be a good idea. So George is going to sit that one out.
Who is the first pick overall?
It would be Victor Wembanyama, probably Giannis, one of those players.
I've heard of these guys. I have heard
Anthony Edwards. Along those
lines. Heard of him.
Yeah, you heard of him too? Okay. All right, let's get to the latest. We got the NFL trade deadline coming and going. Nothing really from a fantasy perspective, honestly. A lot of defensive players traded. It was a significant trade deadline, just not in our universe. In our fantasy universe, as Sauce Gardner goes, Quinnen Williams goes, Rashid Shaheed, one of the players traded, and of course, Jacoby Myers. We'll get to that as well. Big story this week at quarterback definitely has to be the developing one in Arizona, which seemingly doesn't yet have an end. Kyler Murray was placed on injured reserve later in the week, and so he is going to miss extended time. This was a very strange situation, George, going back and forth with last week's reporting saying that he could potentially play on Monday night. Jacoby Brissett comes in, does a good job. All of a sudden, they're like, take your time, Kyler Murray. He's still owed $40 million guaranteed next season. You know how I feel about that. I don't think it matters. I think the owners wake up with $40 million in their pocket for doing nothing, just for getting dressed that day. So I do think that they'll be able to figure a way out of this. But, George, I'm still not completely convinced that even Jacoby Brissett is the answer for Arizona. It feels like Jonathan Gannon under some pressure here, and I'm sure that this went all the way up to the top to the Bidwells making this call.
I think it's really simple here. If Brissett wasn't playing well or Murray was playing well, Murray's playing this week. And I think it's really that simple here. But he has been playing well. Brissett is he's playing good. I wouldn't say he's on fire or, oh my God, you got to go grab him in your fantasy league. Not in a league that only starts one quarterback, but he is playing well. That being said, he's going in Seattle this week against the Seahawks defense. I think come next week at this time, we're going to be talking about it again. Murray won't be eligible to come back, but you'll be like, maybe Brissett's not the answer here. He's not the long-term future here in Arizona, but this is another team that's very likely going to be looking for a quarterback in the offseason. Draft's going to be a little tough. They're going to win probably too many games to get a top 8, top 10 pick there, but I don't think Murray's the answer, Craig, and I think it's a fair question to ask. Has Murray played his last game for the Arizona Cardinals?
Maybe so. There's some, talk out there that maybe he would go back, and he was a first-round pick of the Oakland A's in Major League Baseball. Maybe he would take that back up again. He's been out of the game a long time, but we will see. Houston Texans offense has been struggling all season, so they really couldn't afford what's going to happen this week. Now, Davis Mills, George, is, somewhat of a capable backup here. Like, I wouldn't put him in the bottom 5 backup quarterback. I don't know that he's going to go out and be able to win a game for Houston, but not having C.J. Stroud just kind of puts the emphasis on this season. I mean, George, it feels like a loss, one more coming from them, and this season's kind of done.
I would probably agree. Now, they do play Jacksonville, a team that has its own issues, right? So it's a good draw, and you're at home. Now, you said you wouldn't put him in the bottom 5 backup quarterbacks. I might put him in the bottom 10. He's not very good. And their offense has had problems all season long anyway, right? I don't want to start Mills. I don't know if you have Nico Collins, you're probably starting him, right? I don't know if you can do better on your roster than Nico Collins. And then after that, okay, the running back with a pulse. You start your running back, no choice there. So you're probably going, Mark, that's it. There's no one else going to want to start there on Houston. So it's an issue here. Let's see if Jacksonville can take advantage of it because it's an important game for them as well. And they have problems also here in Jacksonville as far as what's going on there. They acquired Jacoby Myers at the deadline here. So it's somewhat of an interesting game in the AFC South, right? But that being said, I really don't want much to do with the Houston offense.
Yeah, no, it's been a rough year for them, and really a couple of wins could have put them in a much better position. But I think that you're right. Jacksonville, not the best, is not as good as I thought, by the way, but their record indicates they still have a shot, and certainly the Raiders gave them one last week. Meanwhile, Rome Odunze with no catches last week. His dad goes on social media, George, you don't see this very often, and wonders if a trade would be better for him. Odunze responded in the locker room this week saying he's got the thing all worked out. Look, the Bears scored a lot of points, and he didn't do anything, so I kind of get it here, but this is why social media is sort of dangerous, isn't it?
Boy, if you're an athlete, you don't want your parents getting involved. All right. It doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. You wonder if this is a response, by the way, to Marvin Harrison's senior speaking up for his son. Then his son has the big game, right, against the Cowboys. So, but it just doesn't look good. It makes you look like it makes you look bad. I know Odunze was having he was very busy early in the season. Lately, he hasn't been. I'm not so sure you also want to do this after your team wins. Probably not the smart thing to do, but just not a good look all around here. And by the way, the trade deadline's over, so he's not going anywhere anyway. Not there was ever a chance they were going to trade their former first-round pick, but not a good look for Odunze.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so let's just put a bow on Thursday Night Football, which didn't really help anyone, to be honest. I suppose if you had Ashton Genty starting, you're okay with that, but beyond that, 10-7 final between the Broncos and Raiders. The only one of the Broncos that really came through, honestly, is the defense. I mean, the Broncos defense put 6 sacks up, so you got those points there. But, I mean, George, look, last week Miami-Baltimore was a dog game, but at least Baltimore put up a bunch of touchdowns. I think we got to ask ourselves this question. Was this the worst Thursday Night Football game of the year? I mean, if it wasn't, it was close.
Oh, I think it was. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. This is a bad game. I mean, it was just listen, it's Thursday night. This is what felt like a Thursday night game, right? Teams didn't look like they were ready to play. There was more penalties than first downs by both teams. All right, which is just nuts. All right, you mentioned if you had Genty, you'll take the 15 points I think it came out to. All right, I don't know what more you could be expecting against the Denver defense. I guess if you started Franklin, I think he also had 15, so maybe you're happy there. As a flex wide receiver 3. But other than that, Bowers had, 4? Knicks did nothing here. Those are extremely disappointing numbers going into Week 10, especially if you needed a W from these guys and they're on your roster there. So, yeah, it was an ugly game. It was a Thursday night game. As far as the NFL is concerned, or NFL-wise, an ugly win's better than a pretty loss, so Denver will take the win. They go 11 days off now. Good for them. Raiders will play the Cowboys in their next game on another Monday night, another prime time game for the Raiders. They'll play the Cowboys a week from Monday. I guess that's a yay on both sides.
That's a Monday night game coming up, Raiders Cowboys. Is that right?
In Vegas, yeah. Not this Monday, but next Monday, yeah, in Vegas.
Wow. That's a tough one. Cortland Sutton, by the way, in this one, who started as a flex option for a lot of people, or even a wide receiver too. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 24 yards. On Friday, some news broke that J.K. Dobbins injured his foot in this game on a hip drop tackle. So Dobbins, who's had a myriad of injuries over the course of his career, and we don't know how this is going to plan. And again, you got 10 days, but it could finally be time for R.J. Harvey, their young rookie, to get a full complement if Dobbins is going to miss extended period of time. He's probably dropped in some leagues as well, so he would be a hot waiver wire pickup for next week, because I'm guessing in any league you can't pick him up now. All right, we'll dive into the NFL's trade deadline next. You're watching Fantasy Sports Today. Don't go away.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Oh, is
now.
that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, brother, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Earlier this week, the trade deadline came and went, and it was a pretty active trade deadline, especially on the defensive end. But, George, for fantasy purposes, really not a lot happening. Actually, I'm surprised that Breece Hall wasn't moved, and I'm surprised some other players did not get traded. But the biggest trades from an offensive perspective, and we'll start off with it, was Rashid Shaheed going from New Orleans to Seattle. And I'm guessing, if I'm reading this correctly, it just means that maybe Cooper Kupp is more injured than we know, because beyond that, Jackson Smith-Njigba is the number one wide receiver in Seattle. And George Shaheed, it feels like he's just going to have the same exact role that he had in New Orleans with a little bit of a better quarterback. Kind of hard to even start.
This is more of a trade that's good for the NFL team than it is for your fantasy team. I mean, if I had Shaheed, I probably want him to stay with New Orleans, right? He was the number two behind Olave there. He's going to get his shots there. With Seattle, his role is going to be, as you said, the same exact role, stretch the defense. Get those safeties to back up, give JSN more room, give that running game more room. I don't know this has much to do with Cooper Kupp, by the way. I think they just wanted a guy who stretches the defense to set themselves up for the rest of the season here and the playoffs here. JSN's still going to be your main guy here. Kupp, when he returns, will be a slot guy. This probably hurts Horton, who had 2 touchdowns last week, right? I think in the first quarter, it was great for you if you started him. This probably hurts Horton once everybody's healthy, as he's now unusable. When everyone's healthy and playing here. So I don't think it's changed as much for anybody other than Horton here. Kupp, if you were starting him, and I think you and I both agree, good luck to you if you were. Right. And Steven Shaheed, it's just JSN now. He's the only guy I'd want to start. Barner could take a little bit of a hit here as well, the tight end, but he was barely a tight end one anyway.
So Brian Thomas Jr. late this week was ruled out, and maybe the Jags are trying to get ahead of this injury by trading for Jacoby Myers, who asked for a deal at the beginning of the season, and it seemed like the Raiders just completely fell out of favor even throwing him the ball. Only 49 targets on the season, 352 yards, no touchdowns. Trey Tucker was getting a lot of the action at wide receiver, and then, of course, Brock Bowers, who missed a lot of time. Myers didn't even do anything when he was out, and now that he's back, maybe this is a better spot. I mean, Myers, George, will help Jacksonville. I mean, if Trevor Lawrence throws him the ball quite a bit, I'm not sure that will happen. It feels like the Jaguars have not had a really true wide receiver one, even though Brian Thomas Jr. was so great at the end of last year. It has not translated this year. So maybe in a couple of weeks we check back on Myers. I don't know how you can start him this week, though.
what did we say last year with about Brian Thomas? He had those numbers not with Lawrence, right? He had it with the backup quarterback. Lawrence was already out by then, so I don't think we should be that surprised that it really hasn't translated over this year. I think Myers was originally brought in because Travis Hunter's out, right? He's on the IR. We don't know if we're going to see him again this year, all right? And then you throw in Brian Thomas, too. I mean, what was the name you said during the break? Parker Washington. I think that's the guy if you want to start somebody on Jacksonville wide receiver, I think it's Washington you want to start this week, not Myers. And let's face it, he's been there. How much of the playbook does he know? What kind of chemistry does he have with Lawrence? I don't see this being. The bottom line is, I don't want to start Myers. I have to be pretty desperate to do so. Maybe you're getting crushed with the. Maybe you got Chase, Higgins, Rashee Rice, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, whoever, and you're just stuck this week. And then I would understand it. But I do not want to start Myers this week. I'd go with your guy, Parker Washington.
Adonai Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell on the Indianapolis Colts. What's made him famous this season is not having a touchdown because he threw the ball up before he hit the end zone. He's now on the Jets. At some point, the Jets will try and play him a little more to make the most of this trade and make it look pretty good on their end. But, George, do we need to waste 30 seconds on this guy? You can't play him at all.
No, this is who cares. Next.
So here are the trades that didn't happen. One is not a surprise for me, and one is. So I am very surprised that the Dolphins did nothing. I thought at least defensively they would trade players, especially on expiring contracts. I'm not really sure what happened. But Jalen Waddle is staying in Miami, and this is really good for his fantasy value the rest of the season. Not because Tua is fantastic, it's just because there's not much there. Waller is out. So these targets, I think, are going to go up exponentially between now and the end of the season. He's a buy guy for me now, George. 586 yards, 4 touchdowns. The problem with Waddle, George, as you know, he catches the ball, he goes down, and you wonder, is he hurt? I mean, this seems to happen a lot with him in Miami, and then he goes off to the sideline. You have to hope. But I think, look, Miami can't be any worse offensively than they've been through 9 games. So over the next 6, I'm gonna predict some pretty good things for him staying in there. I think that was good for his value.
Yeah, I think all that's fair. I agree. I think he's a wide receiver, too, the rest of the season. Touchdowns may be a little tough to come by here, but I have no problem with Waddle. He's on one of my teams, and he's an automatic starter. As for Miami, I do wonder if Tua is done after this season. They'll move on from him as well here. They're likely going to have a top pick here, a top 5 pick in the draft. They can get another quarterback. It's not working out there with Miami. As for the trade deadline, well, they did trade the defensive end Phillips to Philadelphia. I thought they would trade Chubb, but I think he's been a little bit banged up. I don't think he's willing to pay a premium pick for a guy that they're not sure is going to be healthy the rest of the season or off and on healthy. As for Waddle, we had pretty much known they weren't moving him before the deadline here. So I guess someone's got to catch passes from whatever quarterback they have next year, as Hill is almost certainly will not be a Dolphin next season.
And the other big non-trade was Breece Hall staying with the New York Jets. 581 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 21 receptions, 178. He's having a much better season than he had a year ago. A lot of these numbers are skewed off one game. That's the truth, too. Isaiah Davis is there. I know a lot of his owners were hoping that Hall would get traded so Isaiah Davis could play. I mean, Hall is a rock-solid RB2 the rest of the way. I just don't know what his psyche is. It didn't seem to be really good the other day.
Oh, it was terrible. He wanted to be gone, right? Along with everybody else there. Reports came out that Kansas City offered a 4th-round pick. All right, the Jets turned it down, which is somewhat strange. How much better were you expecting to get than a 4th-round pick for a good running back, but not a great one? A little surprised they didn't take that deal, especially with someone who's probably not in your plans long term. All right, Hall, I think his contract's up after next year. So what's the point? He's not going to be on your team anyway. The Jets are playing for 2, 3, 4 years down the line with all those number 1 picks they have. You're not going to have Hall anyway. Take the 4th-round pick. Or do some kind of condition where he can move up to a 3rd if he does this, that, and the other thing. If Kansas City wins the Super Bowl, whatever it might be. You should have been able to work that in there somehow. So surprised to me, Craig, that Hall is still on the team. Actually, I think it's surprising that anybody on the Jets is still on the team. But Jets did what they had to do, and we'll see where they are in a couple of years. If you're a Jets fan, good luck.
Brace yourself.
Good luck.
Yeah, this year and next year seem to be lost. All right, waiver wire coming up next. Not a huge week for the waiver wire, but a couple of key injuries have opened up the door.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly, Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 72 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, by the way, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
So the waiver wire, not exactly a sweepstakes this week, but definitely some players out there that were added in a lot of leagues. George and I go through them with you on the show each and every week. Let's get started, George. And one player who seems to be climbing a little bit is Alec Pierce, wide receiver on the Indianapolis Colts. He's up to 26% owned. But the issue with Pierce, as you know, not going to score, right? Like, he doesn't have any touchdowns this season. He has 500 yards. If you're desperate for a wide receiver 3 in a PPR, is he going to catch 4 balls for 50 yards? I would say probably. But you're just hanging on to hope that he gets that 6, and it just hasn't happened for him yet this year. You'd have to really be thin at wide receiver, George, to start him this week.
Which you might be. That's what we went through the buys before. You might be, but I agree. I mean, if he doesn't have that touchdown deodorant, you're probably going to be disappointed here. And listen, the offense runs through Jonathan Taylor, who had a terrible game last week against Pittsburgh, right? So they're going to give him the rock on Sunday morning. That's the Germany game, I believe, Sunday morning. So remember to set your lineups early. And then it's Michael Pittman, right? Then it's Tyler Warren. Before you worry about Pierce and Downs, who are pretty much in the same class for me. I mean, I do like the wide receiver. If he was on a different team, Craig, I think he could have different results. But here you're talking, like I said, Taylor, Warren, Pittman. He's no better than the 4th option here, and maybe the 5th if Downs is ahead of him as well.
Parker Washington's numbers aren't fantastic this season at all. But because of 2 receivers being out and Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, all of a sudden he's become the wide receiver 1 for the Jaguars and made the most of it last week. So I don't know that you could really look at these numbers and really get excited about him. But the fact that Trevor Lawrence, generally speaking, George, I mean, as bad as sometimes he is, he's 15 to 20 points every single week. Like, this is not like Bo Nix and not like Geno Smith that we saw last night. Lawrence somehow is getting the fantasy points and throwing to somebody. So Washington, really, for the next few weeks, at the end of the day, I mean, could he be a wide receiver flex or a wide receiver 2 for you? Maybe. Definitely worth a pickup, I think, though, at this point.
In a perfect world, your last line is where I go. He's worth the pickup. Do I want to start him this week? No. I'd rather not start him this week because you're playing Houston, one of the best defenses in the league, great cornerback. So this is probably not the week he's going to pay off for you. But after this week, I think he'd be really good. All right, we said it. Brian Thomas is out. Jacoby Myers, I don't know what he's going to be able to do. And he's been there for, 3 days now. How much of the offense can he know? Does he have any chemistry with Lawrence there? So I said, in a perfect world, I'd rather not start him this week. But the opportunity's probably going to be there. Someone's got to catch passes this week. All right, and there's no Hunter, there's no Thomas. So Washington is your number one this week. I just don't think you're going to get the. I think you'll be disappointed. Another guy probably going to need that touchdown deodorant. He had 17 points last week, like 90 yards and 8 catches, something like that. You're not going to get that this week. All right, I don't see him catching 8 balls for 90 against Houston. Different defense. That was against Vegas. So just keep that in mind here. But I do like the player. He's certainly worth a pickup.
So the Giants situation, I thought, was a home run last week by picking up Tyrone Tracy, because even behind Cam Scatterbo, it didn't seem like Devin Singletary was part of the offense. And at the end of the day, Singletary was the one that really played more than Tracy, George. I don't know what is going on here exactly, but Singletary's ownership numbers have skyrocketed this week just off the, hey, let's see what happens. He's up to 30% owned. He wasn't particularly good last week, but the Giants are going to run the ball on the one with somebody. I really don't know what to make of this. I'm going to assume that Tracy's still going to end up being the guy here, but I was stunned to see almost no volume at all for him.
Yeah, so was I. All right, I grabbed him in a league or two and started him. That was annoying, to put it nicely. That Singletary ended up being the guy. I got a funny feeling, Craig, what's going to happen. A lot of people went to the waiver wire, picked up Singletary this week, and this will be a Tracy week. Right, for whatever reason, the offense table decided, okay, Singletary's the better guy last week, better matchup, whatever. Veteran, I don't know. Maybe they were mad at Tracy, but maybe this will be a Tracy a week here. But I'm certainly not guaranteeing it. Like last week, I really thought it was going to be Tracy. Now I think it's going to be Tracy, or I'm hoping it's going to be Tracy. And maybe I'm hoping because I have Tracy. I don't have Singletary anywhere, but I think it's going to be a frustrating situation.
Yeah, I traded for him. I have Singletary too, but I don't think either are playable. Okay, so Luke Musgrave, he's now the starting tight end with the Packers. Jordan Love found a nice connection with Tucker Kraft. Let's also not forget that Musgrave has been with the team in the past and had an opportunity to play and make the most of it. Really did not. But George, is this just a matter of now that Kraft is out, Musgrave becomes back end tight end one, or another wait and see? A lot of people did not pick him up this week, less than 10% owned.
I kind of like him this week. Green Bay's got a lot of problems at wide receiver, a lot of injuries there, right? Golden, Watson, Wicks, all questionable to play here, and I don't think they're all going to play. So that's why I do kind of like him. It is against Philadelphia. He usually can be beat by the tight end. So I do like him this week, but he's a 10 to 14 range.
Fantasy games of the week next.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Fly, Pelican, more like grounded Pelican. The Pelicans are 0-6 to start the season. Their main guys aren't their main guys. And it comes to a point where, what do you do if you are Joe Dumars and the leadership of New Orleans?
Pro Basketball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You want to throw $12, $13 million at Kiffin? That's always a possibility. Summerall, they lost the other night to, in that matchup to UTSA. Or do you go back to potentially the mad scientist and Nick Saban, give him, complete control of the athletic department and see if he can turn it around? We'll see. But whatever they go, they're going to need a coach to hit the ground running.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
His daughter, she's on the OF.
Okay.
She's on the OF.
Is that right?
Yeah, she's on the OF.
So he's got
now.
an OnlyFans daughter and a little son
who says he can beat Curry and LeBron.
And he's coaching a team that was down 17 to
Keep
nothing.
that dude away from polite society.
Okay, brother, I'm with you. I didn't know any of that is.
Numerous pops gotta go.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Back we go overseas for an early Sunday morning game. So get your lineup set early, as George said earlier in the show. Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today. And seems like this has potential to be a decent game if you believe that the Falcons are going to be who we think they are, which they haven't been over the course of the season. Basically, it's been a lot of inconsistency. But Atlanta is at Indianapolis this week, George, where the Colts have been just rock solid outside of last week as far as who to play. So you fire back up Jones and Taylor and Pittman and, of course, Tyler Warren, who's been a little quiet lately. But for Atlanta, London has been an absolute star, and last week he probably carried you a fantasy football win or close to it, and same with Bijan Robinson. But I thought we would be starting more players on the Falcons this season. Pitts, I guess, is the one that you'll have to make a decision on based on who else you have.
Yeah, I think that's exactly where you're going with that. You're starting Bijan Robinson, right? You're starting Drake London. You're probably not starting Darnell Mooney, who's not been that player this year that he was last year. He's good fantasy player last year, a little sneaky. This year, it's just not happening for him. There's no one else to start there. You're not going to go down to third string David Sills. All right, Michael Penix. And listen, we're also sort of curious. Sauce Gardner's now in Indianapolis. Might give them the best secondary in the NFL, by the way, or really close to it. So you're probably staying away from Penix. It's not somebody you want to go with there. So it is what it is. It's Bijan, it's London, and probably not much more there. Kyle Pitts, as you said, it's a borderline. Who else do you got? And that's Andy. You already named the players you're going with there. I'm probably not going to go Pearson Downs this week if I can help it, but all the other starters start.
Bills have dominated the Dolphins throughout the years, and this could be another one this week, sadly, for Miami. Buffalo, of course, was hoping that James Cook would practice late in the week, and he did. So Cook should be good to fire up, along with Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid, and, certainly if you want to play Khalil Shakir, I think it's pretty safe to play there. For Miami, George, we talked about Waddle, and I'm guessing A-Chain is a must-start. We're kind of headed into territory with Miami that it's not much more than that.
No, really, who else would you even think about? You're not starting Tua. A super flex or a 2-quarterback league. Okay, I get it. We have to start him, but in a 1-quarterback league, you're not starting Tua. Waddle and A-Chain go, and that's it. That's just it. There's not even no Darren Waller. He's on the IL as well. As for Buffalo, you already mentioned the conundrum there. Do you want to start Shakir? Do you want to start Coleman? Coleman's a no for me, even against Miami, which they might score 35-40. It wouldn't shock me. But I probably would still stay away here. Shakir is more of a volume guy. Maybe he breaks one to the end zone. We saw that a couple of weeks ago, but hard to rely on that. James Cook's your automatic starter, by the way, but it is frustrating, Craig, that they're not using him in the passing game at all here. We're losing some points to that. And what's somewhat surprising is that they don't have a great, cachet of receivers to throw to, but they just only use him in the run game right now.
Ravens and Vikings with Lamar Jackson back, it makes everybody very valuable. We saw Lamar Jackson throw a couple times to Mark Andrews in the end zone. Frustrating season again for Andrews, but probably have to play him at tight end. And then you have the running back in Derrick Henry, who's an obvious start. Zay Flowers the same. Bateman is always an iffy. Minnesota, George, it's really complicated with them now. I know they had a really good week last week, and Justin Jefferson, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. This guy gets 15 points. But you really have to make some key decisions. Mason has not looked good lately. Even with Aaron Jones in or out, I'm not sure that matters. And Addison, do you trust him to play? Even with McCarthy playing well, Vikings are very thin on the offense.
I'm going to be the positive person here. McCarthy showed something last week. All right, okay. JJ, you're starting Justin Jefferson, right? So we're not talking about him. But McCarthy showed something last week. Okay, maybe I can use Addison. Maybe this offense is going to be usable. So Addison probably goes for me. Also, Baltimore, we know, whether Lamar's playing or not, their defense has been so-so. You can score points on them. So I'm probably starting Addison. I'm probably not starting Hawkinson. Hawkinson was much more valuable with Carson Wentz on the center. I know he got the touchdown last week, but I think that was his only reception. All right, J.J. McCarthy just does not look for the tight end here. As for the running back, they sort of devour each other. All right, and Aaron Jones is questionable, by the way, so you're going to want to make sure he's playing on Sunday. But they, with Jones back, they sort of eat into each other's fantasy value. Nothing really I want there. So Addison goes, JJ's going to go. Justin Jefferson's going to go for me, and that might be it on Minnesota. You already named everybody on Baltimore here. I'd probably rather not start Andrews. I'd probably rather not start Bateman, but you may not have a choice in this game depending on who else you have here. Minnesota does have a good defense. I don't think Baltimore's scoring 30-plus points.
Patriots had a hot pickup this week at running back because Ramondre Stevenson, who missed last week, looks like he's going to miss this week again. And initially, they did not turn the ball over to Travion Henderson, and people were freaking out. Inevitably, they did, although they had another kid named Jennings who ended up scoring a touchdown there. Also, keep in mind, Patriots thin at wide receiver. Kayshon Bouttie's going to miss this week. It was announced late in the week. And for Tampa Bay, George, they're banged up too. Sort of incredible to me that even through the bye, no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, no Bucky Irving. I mean, I don't know that you can count on these guys the rest of the season. So Rachaad White, put him in and play him yet again. Get your 40 yards and a touchdown. It's pretty much what he does. And I think that this will be an Ibuka game. You know, Ibuka, I think he's been hurt, George. I think he needed that time off. I would guess that this is probably a bounce-back game for him. He's been quiet the last few weeks.
Yeah, he's got the hamstring, right? But he doesn't have an injury designation. He should be good to go here. Those wondering about Godwin, by the way, they say he may not return until week 12, week 13 now. Evans, I think it'll be much later than that with the broken collarbone there. Kate Otten's a possibility for you. Maybe you lost Ferguson. You know, you need a replacement, or Kelsey. You need a replacement. He's someone you may want to go to. But I don't see New England has a legit good defense here. I don't see this being a ton of points being scored here. And we saw before the bye, the last 2 games of Tampa, Mayfield was running for his life a lot.
Yeah.
You know, in a one quarterback league, yeah, you're probably starting him, Craig, but I might want to check who's on the waiver wire, who my backup is. I don't see this being a big game for Mayfield. You're starting at Booker. You mentioned Rachaad White, no choice there. For New England, no Stevenson. He's out as well here. So we already said Henderson and Jennings, I guess you have to mix and match to hope one guy gets the touchdown. And you said it, Boutte's out there. Probably not much I like there on the New England offense outside of Drake May.
Rams and 49ers, last time these two teams faced off, it was all Rams. Nobody playing for the 49ers at all. And the 49ers went into LA and won pretty easily. So I'm not sure which way this is going to go this week, but here's what I know. You definitely play everybody you can on the Rams because you got to. They're doing fantastic, obviously, and Stafford's just throwing a million touchdown passes this season. And for the 49ers, they got the best player in fantasy football again in Christian McCaffrey. George, at the end of the season, McCaffrey's going to be the number 1 player in all of fantasy.
I guess we'll start with McCaffrey. If Brian Robinson's available in your fantasy league, you got to claim him because they're using McCaffrey a lot. I mean, a lot. I just have to wonder if sooner or later an injury is going to happen there. So I'd want to claim Robinson if he's available. He's probably not, but if he is, I'd want to claim him. This is the game, by the way. I think it was a Thursday night game where Kyron Williams fumbled the ball late when they were going in for the win here. So that's why they lost the game. Tough loss there. Well, Matthew Stafford, Craig, is he your MVP right now? I mean, it's nuts what he's doing here. He's having a fantastic season. Nakua's healthy. Adams is healthy. You got Williams there. So you're starting all these guys. San Fran's still playing it very coy about the quarterback position. Purdy's practicing a little bit more here, but he's still limited at practice. We'll see what happens in practice on Friday here. I imagine it's still going to be Mac Jones that we hear differently, as far as who's going to start there. And you're probably starting Mac. I don't know if you have much of an option there. You're certainly starting Christian McCaffrey. No, Pearsall, Kittle, you're starting. Juwan Jennings, probably going that direction too this week. Yeah. As a wide receiver 3, flex.
Yeah, Mac Jones is going to be a starter in the NFL for somebody next year. You could just book that right now based on this. Lions and Commanders. I mean, look, last week, that was the stunner to me. Not that, George, that the Lions lost that game. I think they're in for a big bounce back this week for the Lions. What in the world happened? The running backs, nothing. Goff, nothing against Minnesota. Washington is just a walking disaster right now. Just everybody hurt for them. I honestly can't make a case for playing anyone. We're hearing this week that Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt may not play as much as he has been. Maybe this other guy, Rodriguez, is going to play. But I'm firing up the Lions this week.
Remember also, if you believe in revenge games, Washington eliminated Detroit last week. I think this is a butt kicking. All right, I think Detroit's going to go in there and just mash them. Washington's they're all beat up, right? Everyone's hurt here. You're starting Debo, and that's really it. Maybe Zach Ertz too, but that's about it here. Everybody who normally goes for Detroit goes. This should be a butt kicking. Detroit scores 35 plus.
Buy or sell up next.
Starts off on a positive note of getting Lamar Jackson back Thursday night, which was great. He threw for 200 yards, did not look rusty at all. He only rushed for 15, but he didn't really need that. Lamar Jackson also threw for 4 touchdowns, 2 of which going to Mark Andrews. So guess who's back and relative again at the tight end position now that Lamar's back? Oh, wait, it's Mark Andrews. No kidding. I mean, the guy just catches touchdowns. It's Lamar's favorite guy in the red zone.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
If Jacoby Brissett was playing bad football for the past 3 weeks, Kyler Murray will be fully healthy, ready to go. Can't wait to get him on the field at Seattle and try to resurrect our season. Now you have Jacoby Brissett playing really good football. Putting Kyler Murray back in right now because he wasn't playing good football doesn't make any sense. The perfect storm here for Arizona. Hey, Kyler, going on IR takes the pressure off you. And Jacoby, you deserve the start. Go ahead and start, kid.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And the major thing you're going to say about Tom Izzo for the jump is, Tom Izzo don't duck anybody. You want to hear who they have to play preseason? Kentucky, Duke, UNC, and Arkansas. This is not the Jimmy Boeheim Don't Leave New York Carrier Dome Classic. This guy plays people.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
No, but the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Keep an eye out on the injury reports this weekend, and also don't forget that Joe Pisapia and Matt Stryker have you covered each and every Sunday morning exclusively here on SportsGrid, leading you right up until Pro Football Today, and then we have you covered throughout the day. Before we wrap up our show today, it's time for us to get to some questions that are burning in fantasy football. We call it buy or sell. Let's check in on a couple of running backs with a lot of workload from the previous season. You know, going into the year, everyone said, don't draft Barkley, don't draft Henry. These guys got too many carries last season, and that turned out to be true. This week, Saquon Barkley will have a better fantasy week than Derrick Henry. Is this a buy or sell? I guess you could say both have had some time off. Ravens with about 10 days off after the Miami game. Philly on a bye last week.
Yeah, Barkley's also coming back from the slight hamstring, so there's that too. Though he's fine, he's certainly going to play there. They've both been disappointing this year. Although, as you said, we were warned. Fantasy owners were warned. Hey, be careful with these guys. A lot of carries last year. History tells you that's not going to carry over to the next season. They'll be disappointing here. I have them both as low-end running back ones this week, and I have them both within 2 spots of each other. So to answer this question, Swan Barkley will have a better fan. Yeah, I'll buy this because I have Barkley 2 spots ahead of Henry. All right, but I don't expect big things from either one. They both are playing good defenses. Henry up against Minnesota, Barkley up against Green Bay. Here's one thing I'll tell you about the Green Bay Philadelphia game. Remember, Green Bay is the one who tried to get the tush push banned. You know, I will guarantee you Philadelphia's going to do a tush-push every chance they get here, which could hurt Barkley, by the way, because that means he's not going to get that touchdown close on the goal line. But you know they want to shove it right down Green Bay's throat.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I am going to sell. Henry didn't score last week. I think he's going to score this week against Minnesota. The game plan, I think, for the Ravens is going to be a lot of running. And Henry's kind of due, I think, for a big game. I don't have great analysis regarding that, but just a gut feeling that I'll go with Derrick Henry this week. Okay, disappointing week last week for Rome Odunze. I would say it's probably fair to say at this point, unfortunately for people who took Ladd McConkey very high, he's been okay, but he hasn't taken that next step, and basically his fantasy numbers are going to look worse than they did a year ago if this continues. You would rather have Rome Odunze, who got a 0 last week, other than Ladd McConkey for the rest of the season. This is a tough one. You buy or sell?
Not tough for me. Do I want McConkey or Odunze? I'll take McConkey all day long here. This is hell till the no. No way I want Odunze over McConkey. I don't listen. I'm not negative about Odunze. It's also the better quarterback. Justin Herbert's having a fantastic season. Harbaugh is letting him cook, letting him throw the ball here. McConkey's going to be a big target of that. Both have plenty of other options there, right? Odunze's got to worry about DJ Moore, and then Gatson coming along certainly hurts McConkey there. And you got Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson on the back of a milk carton since really the emergence of Gatson here. But it's really the quarterbacks for me. I will trust Herbert to get the ball to McConkey more than I'll trust Williams to get the ball to Odunze. I like Odunze, but the question is, which one would I rather have? I would much rather have McConkey.
I would agree. I'm gonna go sell on this one too. So I'm a back-to-back seller here. Yeah, I mean, look, McConkey, if he doesn't score, he's 5 catches, 60 yards every single week. So that's wide receiver 3 or flex every week in fantasy. You're getting that, and then there's upside there. Downside with Rome Odunze, you have no idea. I mean, it's almost like the Bears are playing like the Packers, where one week it's Odunze, one week it's Luther Burden, one week it's somebody else. So I'm with you, George, here. I would rather have what I know, which is McConkey's 10 to 15 points. That being said, Odunze, can he win you a week? Yes, he can. Maybe more than McConkey can. Big surprise at tight end in fantasy this season, Oronde Gadsden II, who's been just getting a ton of targets. He'll be a better tight end this season at the end of the year, statistically, than Juwan Johnson. Is this buy or sell?
Yes, it's another easy one for me. It's a buy. All right. Mainly because, once again, the quarterbacks. You're talking about Herbert versus Shaw, Rattler. I don't know, Drew Brees will come out of the booth there. I mean, you can make an argument that New Orleans will be trailing more, so they're going to have to throw the ball more. Maybe that's true. So I can certainly see that argument there. And also, it's just Olave, and there's really nothing else there. Kamara is a shell of himself there. So maybe Johnson is the second option. But still, I'm going to stick with the Chargers here, and I'll take Gatson, who's going to really come on strong here. If you look at Gatson, by the way, he is not your prototypical tight end. That is a wide receiver playing tight end here. Another bonus for him because he's almost a mismatch every time out there in the passing game. Granted, he's not going to run block to save his life there, but that's not what they're looking for right now. I'll take Gatson here over Juwan Johnson. So bye.
It's funny. His dad was a wide receiver who probably should have been a tight end in the NFL in Oronde Gadsden. It's true. But an easy buy for me here. I mean, I honestly could not even tell you if Juwan Johnson's had 3 good weeks all year. I don't think he has. And I know that Gadsden's had 3 good weeks back-to-back. So this is easy. Rams 49ers, that was a buy. Rams 49ers will be the highest scoring game this weekend. Fortunately for us, we have some high totals in the NFL this week. Are you buying or selling Rams 49ers, highest scoring game?
See, this is where I get to annoy our Sam Yarnell, our producer here, because I'll just take the field. All right? So I'm always going to sell this because I'll just assume there'll be another
You got to
team that
pick
scores
the game.
more.
You got to pick the game.
I am looking to see if
you look. You want me to take over while you look? Come on, you got to pick one.
Detroit, Washington. I mean, Detroit's going to score 35.
That's mine. Don't
points.
steal that one. That's mine.
All right, forget that one. There's a Philadelphia Green Bay. We can get some points in that game.
Maybe.
That wouldn't be a big shocker there. I got to admit, there's not a lot of other games here to look at. Buffalo, Miami. Okay.
I mean, I mean, Jets Browns has that potential though.
Yeah. Okay. The fact that this is why we need Sunday ticket, by the way, because if I was forced to watch Jets, Browns, and Giants, Chicago, I would go insane today. All right. Insane on Sunday. So I'll sell this. I think it will be a top 3 game. Maybe it'll be the number 1 game, but I'll sell it assuming there'll be another game that scores more.
Yeah, I'm going Detroit, Washington. I mean, Detroit, as good as they are, they're giving up 2-3 touchdowns. It's still every game. So I got that one. 30s in for Detroit. 15, 16, 20 points for Washington, so I will sell that as well. We'll be back with the Sports Grid 60 as we wrap it up next here on Fantasy Sports Today. We're here for you every single week of the fantasy football season, and even when it ends, we run through the NFL playoffs as well. We'll be right back.
starts off on a positive note of getting Lamar Jackson back Thursday night, which was great. He threw for 200 yards, did not look rusty at all. He only rushed for 15, but he didn't really need that. Lamar Jackson also threw for 4 touchdowns, 2 of which going to Mark Andrews. So guess who's back and relative again at the tight end position now that Lamar's back? Oh, wait, it's Mark Andrews. No kidding. I mean, the guy just catches touchdowns. It's Lamar's favorite guy in the red zone.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
If Jacoby Brissett was playing bad football for the past 3 weeks, Kyler Murray will be fully healthy, ready to go. Can't wait to get him on the field at Seattle and try to resurrect our season. Now you have Jacoby Brissett playing really good football. Putting Kyler Murray back in right now because he wasn't playing good football doesn't make any sense. The perfect storm here for Arizona. Hey, Kyler, going on IR takes the pressure off you. And Jacoby, you deserve the start. Go ahead and start, kid.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And the major thing you're going to say about Tom Izzo for the jump is, Tom Izzo don't duck anybody. You want to hear who they have to play preseason? Kentucky, Duke, UNC, and Arkansas. This is not the Jimmy Boeheim Don't Leave New York Carrier Dome Classic. This guy plays people.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. You want surprises in the NFL? We definitely have had a few. No bigger than the New England Patriots, who were 4-13 a year ago. And look, a lot of people make the schedule to be something with this team, the reason why they're so good. Maybe that is the case. It doesn't matter. They're 7-2 this season. The Jacksonville Jaguars are also off to a really good start, 5-3. Raiders gifted them a game. That's true, but the record is what it is. Certainly the Bears have been better. The Panthers have been a surprise. And then we all expected San Francisco to be better. They just had so many injuries last year. I guess they figured out that this season. But look, outside of New England, who I think is headed to the postseason, George, you think any of these other teams make it to the playoffs between Jacksonville, Chicago, Carolina?
I mean, Jacksonville, I'll say no. Chicago, Carolina, well, maybe one, right? I mean, there's not a lot. Who else is making it? You know, you could give Philadelphia the win here. You want to give Detroit the win. Go give Tampa Bay, San Fran. We'll put the Rams in. Seattle. There's still another spot there. So who are we giving that spot to? Right. Yes. Oh, Green Bay. So they got a shot here, but probably not. But they have a shot. They just have a shot here to get in. But that's good. So we want – it's the NFL loves, right? Parity. Bad teams can get better here. Everybody has a chance here. It's what the NFL likes here. There's truly no dominant team this season.
What about Jacksonville? You think Jacksonville gets in?
I just don't. Travis Hunter's out. Brian Thomas is out. The defense is so. I'm going to say no. I don't think they've improved somewhat. They'll win. I think they'll win 8-9 games, but I think they would need to win the division to get in. So I'm going to say no.
All right. Yeah. No, I look, New England is the most impressive. Schedule's going to finally get a little tougher here. They got Tampa Bay this week. And then have to close out with some better games, too. But they've been the big surprise this season. So let's wrap up the show as we get ready to send you off into the fantasy football weekend. As George mentioned earlier, don't forget on Sunday morning, there hasn't been an international game for a couple of weeks. You may forget, Sunday morning, we got Indianapolis taking on Atlanta. And either you or your opponent probably going to have somebody in that game. Make sure you set your lineups 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. Eastern Sunday morning. All right, let's wrap it up with some last licks.
All right. I don't even really have any complaints, but, we didn't talk about the Cowboys this week, and that, of course, can't happen. Cowboys made their big trade with the Jets and, I guess, the Bengals for whatever it's worth. But Logan Wilson for a 7th-round pick is more of a who cares. Give it a shot, see what happens here. Usually I would crush Jerry Jones. I'm not saying I would have done this deal, but I don't mind it either as a Cowboy fan. You're getting a very good player in Williams. Is he Micah Parsons? No. All right, but he's still a very good player. Rebuilding the interior of your defensive line here. You give up a 1 and a 2 here. You still have an extra first-round pick next year. So I don't mind what Jones has done here. Like I said, I probably wouldn't have done it. I probably would have kept the picks, mainly because Williams is going to be going on his 3rd contract, 28 years old. I don't think he's going to be that player much longer. Plus, with the addition of Clark that you already got in the Green Bay trade with Micah, you now have 3 good interior linemen here with OC also there here. They can't all play every down. So that's the only reason why I may not have done it here. But I don't mind what the Cowboys did, Greg.
Yeah, I want to end and ask you, George, about the World Series. I mean, we haven't had a chance to wrap up the World Series here on Fantasy Sports Today because it ended on Saturday night of last week. But, the hot talking point has been Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who was on third base. Should he have had a bigger lead on third and been able to score? You've seen some Blue Jays and former Blue Jays come out and say that's the way you got to play it, George. You can't come too far off because you could get doubled off at third. But George, what's your opinion on that? Should the Jays have won the World Series on that play?
I think the Jays lost it more than the Dodgers won it. I do. Listen, they had 2 chances to get a runner in from third. They didn't do it. I saw a video yesterday, Craig, a new video that shows the coach, the third base coach, actually draw a line of where IKF could lead to. So you can't blame he was actually told where he could, and that's where he did. My question, and this is tough as well here, he shouldn't have slid. There was no reason to slide there. It was a force play. So the guy was reaching out, just run through it. You're faster if you do that, but I understand you're always sliding. It's hard to, unless you tell yourself beforehand that I'm not going to slide, it's hard to do that here. But no, I'm probably not crushing IKF as much now as I was earlier, because I did think it was a mistake. But once I saw that video yesterday of the third base coach actually drawing a line of where you could lead to, well, then you can't blame IKF. That's what the organization teaches you. It is what it is.
No, I would say that in people that I've spoken to pretty unanimously, regardless of what's being said online, I think he could have had a little bit more off third. And I don't know if that would have won him the game, but I think that that's a possibility. But either way, great baseball season. We'll be back for next fantasy baseball season in just a few months. That'll do it for the show today. Thanks again to our producer, Sam. For my co-host, George Kurtz, I'm Craig Mish. We'll be back here with another edition of Fantasy Sports Today next week. Have a great weekend.
Starts off on a positive note of getting Lamar Jackson back Thursday night, which was great. He threw for 200 yards, did not look rusty at all. He only rushed for 15, but he didn't really need that. Lamar Jackson also threw for 4 touchdowns, 2 of which going to Mark Andrews. So guess who's back and relative again at the tight end position now that Lamar's back? Oh, wait, it's Mark Andrews. No kidding. I mean, the guy just catches touchdowns. It's Lamar's favorite guy in the red zone.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
If Jacoby Brissett was playing bad football for the past 3 weeks, Kyler Murray will be fully healthy, ready to go. Can't wait to get him on the field at Seattle and try to resurrect our season. Now you have Jacoby Brissett playing really good football. Putting Kyler Murray back in right now because he wasn't playing good football doesn't make any sense. The perfect storm here for Arizona. Hey, Kyler, going on IR takes the pressure off you. And Jacoby, you deserve the start. Go ahead and start, kid.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And the major thing you're going to say about Tom Izzo for the jump is, Tom Izzo don't duck anybody. You want to hear who they have to play preseason? Kentucky, Duke, UNC, and Arkansas. This is not the Jimmy Boeheim Don't Leave New York Carrier Dome Classic. This guy plays people.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
We now have to figure out if they will be in the playoffs. They're the Super Bowl favorite and have shorter odds to miss the postseason as you and I sit here right now.
Right, but let me ask you this. Do you feel after this 5-4 record, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of the regular season, that their defense is as dominant as it was last year?
But the offense is better.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.